the Esperanza 243. You are here to watch and or listen to me read a book out loud. It is a personal book, actually, called Aquatica. This is part 11. This is an exciting day. I'm back. My sister is married, and the most awesome guy is added to our family. And after the reception, I went to our local bar to watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And this all happened in one day and one night. Oh my gosh, I have a freaking headache. Anyways, welcome back to the show. Oh my gosh. So today is going to be reading part 11. Part 11, can you believe it? I feel like we're already halfway through the book. It's crazy, right? I am actually going to do a little recap of part 10 to let you all know where we stopped and what happened in part 10, of course. Pretty cool. So in part 10, let me get it out. We actually get to see Garnet meeting the king, of course. Garnet is shocked to find out that King Adelaide is her uncle, and though she kind of tries to help comfort him, she doesn't want to believe that it's true. And I actually had a really difficult time writing the scene. At the time I was still writing it, and it was really frustrating me that I was making her into an adult a little too soon. I'm not positive. Of course, I would love to hear your opinions, but I would like some help on some of the stuff in this book, because I know they still need some perfecting. And it wouldn't hurt to hear from you guys, and not just a professional editor, because I know a professional editor is going to give me a screwballs. What else happened in part 10 was that Garnet left the grand room, leaving her uncle behind, who is bawling his eyes out because he found out that Corinna did have descendants, and that Corinna, still remembered the pain of that night. It's crazy, redonkulous, as some people I know would say. And then after that, Garnet and Ezra, the king's advisor and confidant, they find out, or they get swirled about by Amethyst, another of the king's nieces. She gets to know Garnet a little bit before actually finding out her name, and that's actually where we are, where Amethyst asks Garnet what her aunt's name is, because she might actually know someone who is looking for Garnet. Whoa, twisted, right? And that's actually where we're going to start, which is pretty cool in my opinion. Now if I can just find the page. Let's go ahead and start reading. My name is Garnet O'Connell. Miss Amethyst gasped. Garnet. Garnet nodded. What is your aunt's name? She looked worried, panicked, really. Garnet became confused, narrowing her brows. Why would you ask that? I think you might be related to someone I know, Miss Amethyst thought to herself. I think I know who you are looking for. She closed her eyes. Please, Miss Garnet, answer the question. Garnet tried looking her in the eyes. My aunt's name is Kaylee Tarleton. The mermaids suddenly became shocked. Oh! You're here! You have a tail! Oh dear! I you down here? Oh dear, oh dear! She cried again. Amethyst became so pale that she fainted. Miss Amethyst! Ezra cried. He swam to her and caught her before she landed on the ocean floor. The questions she asked finally clicked in Garnet's mind. She gasped as she looked at her. Miss Amethyst had red and blonde hair. She had greenish hazel eyes. Garnet's eyes widened. Ezra, I think she and I are relatives. What? He looked at her, his eyes big with confusion and startle. Look at her, she said excitedly. I almost look like her. She fainted after hearing my aunt's name. You and I both know the king is her uncle. She must know something about my mom and my aunt. Who else would ask Aunt Kaylee's name unless they recognized their relative? She paused as Ezra looked at Miss Amethyst. The next second, they swam away from King Adelaise's castle. They were at Darla's Cove. Ezra didn't know where to take Miss Amethyst. He figured taking her to Miss Darla would help. Has she wakened? He looked up. Not yet, he replied. It's been too long. I don't like this. She left her cooking area with an opened clam, filled with different things mixed together. She came up to Miss Amethyst and lifted the open clam to her nose. Miss Amethyst's head twitched. Her eyes fluttered open slowly before she glanced around. Where am I? She whispered. You're in Miss Darla's Cove. Don't worry, everything's fine. As she continued glancing around, she remembered what happened. She widened her eyes, breathing jaggedly. Where is Garnet? I need to speak to her. Calm down, Miss Darla said. You need to rest first. From what I heard, your fainting spell could hurt your health. I don't care, she cried. She stared at the psychic mermaid. I need to speak to her. Garnet stayed near the cooking area. She was nervous to come closer to the mermaid, who was indeed a distant relative. She bit her bottom lip and swam to Miss Amethyst. She cleared her throat. The mermaid looked at her. She stifled a cry. I can't believe it, she whispered. You barely look like her. Garnet narrowed her eyes in confusion. I don't understand. Why did you faint at my aunt's name like that? As if you know her. Who told you? Miss Amethyst closed her eyes. My dear, Miss Garnet, your mother has been looking for you for the past 6 years. Garnet's eyes widened. My mother? No, Aunt Kaylee says she died. She died committing suicide. The mermaid opened her eyes and gave Garnet a look. Do you believe that? Does your aunt believe that? Of course we don't, she said, a bit horrified. She paused. I wasn't sure if she died of something else, or if she came down here. It would seem odd if she did. I had to be in the ocean more than 3 times to get my fins. Miss Amethyst smiled. Things change each generation. Sometimes dreams can lead you here. Garnet gasped. Dreams? Even a dream that could be a memory? Miss Amethyst thought for a moment. What kind of dream? Only my mom would recognize the dream. For her, it used to be a nightmare. She gulped. I'm not telling you anything about it. Miss Amethyst looked at her in a matter-of-fact way. Do you want to meet her? Garnet thought about it. She didn't know if she was ready for that. After all, she never expected to become a mermaid. She didn't imagine all of this could happen. Yet there she was. Of all things, she felt nervous to finally meet her mom. Despite her worried nerves, she nodded. Yeah, she whispered. Yes, I want to meet her. For someone who should have been excited, she looked sad. After a few moments' silence, Ezra decided to speak up. I guess my duty is done here, as he said. Garnet narrowed her brows. What do you mean? She asked, glancing at him. Well, technically you have found only one relative, who is not your mom. Plus, I already found the person who turned recently into a mermaid, he said. She smiled confusingly. He bowed to her. I will leave you, so you may continue your adventure without a king's advisor, he teased. She giggled. Ezra left Miss Darla's cove and headed back to the castle. Miss Amethyst and Garnet sighed at the same time. Garnet eyed her distant relative. How do you know my aunt's name? She paused for a moment. If you're a relative, whose side of the family are you on? Really? I've been talking with your mother for the past 11 years, Amethyst began to explain. She paused for a brief moment. She only started worrying about you 6 years ago. This dream you talked about, I think it might have come back. She paused again. I'm from her grandma's side of the family. I am, well, it's a bit hard to figure out. Garnet rolled her eyes. Here we go again. Another family confusion. Her relative didn't hear her. I want to see my mom. Miss Amethyst nodded, and then looked at Miss Darla. Thank you. I appreciate the help you did. Waking me up. I guess some of the rumors were wrong. Miss Darla giggled. Most of them are wrong. I do predict events. She suddenly cast her head aside. Her eyes grew blank and stared forward. The next second, the color in her eyes came back as she darted them downward. She bit her lower lip. Miss Garnet? Garnet looked at her. Have fun with your mother. Tell her I said hi. She sighed and nodded. It was nice seeing you again, Miss Darla. Likewise, she replied, nodding her head. Miss Amethyst and Garnet then left the cove and headed toward the castle in a different direction. Within minutes, she had led Garnet to an area not too far from the castle. Where are we? Miss Amethyst hushed her. Shh. Hardly anyone comes here. Your mother and I come here to have personal discussions we don't want anyone to hear, she whispered. What is there to discuss? Garnet whispered, wondering what she was talking about. You, your aunt, your cousin, she replied. She kept overturning rocks and the like, as well as putting them back. Almost each one had a scratch or a marking. Ah, that way. Come, come. Miss Amethyst swam over to a spot where there were hardly any rocks. She pressed on something. That was when they heard something sliding. The two looked around. Garnet then realized she was alone. She widened her eyes. "Miss Amethyst? Where did you go?" she whispered. A head popped up from beneath her. "Down here, Miss Garnet. Come on, don't dawdle," the relative said. Garnet swam into a big hole that would be easy to spot. Once she entered, the rock slid back into place. She gasped when she saw it close. Miss Amethyst saw her frightened. "Don't worry. We know these parts very well. You'll be able to get out." Garnet followed her deeper into the tunnel, her bucket lightly tapping against her arm as she swam. She looked back at the entrance one more time. Her gut told her that something wasn't right. There were a few turns to the tunnel. The coloring of the ocean waters grew lighter, as if they came close to the end of the tunnel. They were nowhere near an exit. In a matter of minutes, they came to a point in the tunnel where it was really big and roomy. She and Garnet spotted a mermaid resting on the rocky ground. She swam to her and slightly shook her shoulder. "Wake up, dear. There's someone here you need to meet." Tell them, the mermaid began to say sleepily. She suddenly sat up. "What? You brought someone here?" She glanced at her. "Now, Amber, don't be like that. This lady needs to meet you, talk to you. Just give her a few minutes, please," Miss Amethyst said, reasoning with her. The mermaid sighed. "Fine, but only a few minutes. Where is she?" Miss Amethyst gave her a look, signaling her that she was in front of her. She looked toward her visitor and smiled. "Hi there, I'm Amber Winsome. What's your—" She widened her eyes. Amber was shocked. "Amethyst, she looks almost exactly like you. Care to explain?" Miss Amethyst smiled and thought about her response. "I believe she takes it after you-know-who," she answered. She gave Garnet a look. "Introduce yourself." Garnet gave her a thankful look. She had the same thought. She didn't want her mom to know it was her unless she said it herself. "Hi, Miss Amber," she said. She sighed nervously, picking at her nails. She smiled and chuckled nervously. "Wow, you have no idea how long I've waited for this." "What are you talking about? Who are you?" Garnet took a deep breath and let it out. "I was raised by my aunts on land," she tried telling her. The mermaid widened her eyes in confusion as Nettie sighed. "My name is—" She looked down and bit her lower lip. "It's Garnet. Garnet O'Connell." "O'Connell?" She was shocked. "Garnet?" Garnet nodded nervously. "Oh, how could this be?" She shook her head. "I didn't want this," she whispered. Garnet widened her eyes with shock as she lowered her head. Amethyst nudged Amber in her side. She gave her an odd look, aiming her eyes at the mermaid who is her daughter. Amber sighed. "I just don't understand. Why did you come here?" she asked. Garnet told her how the family came to Virginia. She and Marion were playing in the shallow parts and then started racing. She was very brief of telling her story until she reached the point where she met Amber. After the story, she grew quiet. Garnet couldn't take the awkward silence that was growing. She swam to her mother and hugged her tight. "I missed you so much." Amber was still a bit frightened. She then remembered how long it had been since she saw her baby. 15 long years. She hugged her tightly. "I've been looking for you for the past 6 years," Amber whispered. Her daughter nodded. "I know. Amethyst told me." They let go of their hugs, and her mom smiled at her. She had a sad face. "Why did you fake your death?" Amber stared. "What are you talking about?" Garnet grew worried and confused. "Aunt Kaylee told me you died soon after I was born. Someone in the family told her you died committing suicide." She and Amethyst gasped as she shivered. "Who would do such a thing?" Amber whispered. "I didn't claim a death at all, sweetie," she said. "I left a note to Kaylee saying that I was running away. I couldn't... Oh gosh, who would do such a thing?" She was so confused and frightened. "Aunt Kaylee and the other family members thought it was suspicious." She tried remembering what her aunt said. "The only ones who weren't suspicious were my grandfather, grandmother, and a couple of my great aunts and uncles." Amber narrowed her eyes. "I should have known Mother was involved," she muttered. "She never did like the habits I had, even the normal ones." She then widened her eyes. "I bet Kaylee never got my note." She gasped as Garnet stared at her in confusion and shock. "Kaylee!" She looked at her daughter. "How is your aunt? And your father?" "They're fine," she smiled. "I'm not sure how young I was, but they got married and adopted a son. Aunt Kaylee and Dad got divorced 2 years ago. Patrick lives with Dad now. I'm in high school as a junior. Marion is in her new apartment in Virginia. She's going to a cooking school." "Wow, those are some achievements," she said with awe and shock. Garnet chuckled and smiled faintly. "Yeah, a lot happens in 15 years. Amber put her arm around her daughter's shoulder, and they took a long swim together further down the tunnel. Amethyst stayed behind. "You know, I find it odd. You do look more like one of our distant relatives than me and your father. The only traits you have from us is the brown and red hair." She gasped. "That reminds me, you won't believe who I met in Aquatica today." "Who did you meet?" "I met Mr. Ezra and Miss Darla, the psychic. Oh, and King Adelaide. Not to forget you and Amethyst, of course," she said, giving her a teasing look. Amber widened her eyes. "You met Miss Darla and the king? What are they like?" "King Adelaide is a nice man. If someone interrupts politely, he lets them talk. He's an emotional person, too. And Miss Darla, she's really nice. She does predict events. Oh, and her cove walls can make merfolk fall asleep and dream of their fears." "I heard about her cove walls. I had a friend who was one of them. He's hardly afraid of anything now, except spiders. He must have been on land at some point." Silence came as they swam in the tunnel. Garnet sighed. "Do you know how long I've known Aunt Kaylee as a mother?" "I wouldn't know, dear," she replied, brushing her fingers in her daughter's hair. And that's where I'm going to stop. Oh my gosh. Incredible, incredible, incredible. That is a lot to take in. Oh man. I should have done fewer pages for you guys. That is one huge load for you. Good grief. I believe that is it. I will see you all in the next video. This is the Esperanza 2 for 3, signing out.